Hello, everyone. We're about to finish Masechet Nedarim, and I think before we're done with it, there's still a few words we can say about the topic of the last two chapters, Hafarat Nedarim. There's a difference between Hafarat Nedarim and Hatarat Nedarim that we saw before. Hatarat Nedarim in the previous chapters of Masechet Nedarim has to do with undoing the vow. In other words, a person made a neder, and Chachamim find a way to undo the neder that she made in the past, so the neder doesn't obligate them anymore. The topic of hafarat nedarim is not towards the past of making the vow; it's towards the future. It's canceling the neder. It's annulling the vow that a woman made. And by the way, that's the reason, says the Rambam, for example, and other Rishonim, that Masechet Nedarim includes in Seder Nashim, in the Seder that is dealing with affairs of women. So Hafarat Nedarim, canceling the vow of a woman, has to do with four different categories or situation or circumstances, time in the life of a woman that her husband or her father can cancel her vow. And the four categories are the following, and it's all come out from one chapter in the book of Bamidbar, Parashat Matot, chapter 30. And there the Torah is telling us that there's a category of a young girl that is still under the supervision of her father, that if she made a vow, her father can cancel the vow. Now, this category, this situation of a young girl making a vow, has to be that she's older than 12, because if she's younger than the age of 12, she's too young for her vow to be valid, and she can just talk as much as she wants. It doesn't mean anything. She's not obligated to follow the vow. And when she's above 12 and a half, she's considered to be an adult, and then her father cannot cancel her vows. So actually the father have a window of 6 months when his daughter is still in his house under his supervision, that if she made a vow, he can cancel the vow. But, says the Torah, this also comes with a very, very important condition. He can cancel the vow, lehafer et neder, only if he says so within the day of making the vow. Because if a day passed and he didn't say anything, so it's either he agrees with the vow she took upon herself, or he just didn't hear about it, and it wasn't there. It wasn't there on time to cancel her vow. Both this situation, if he doesn't hear or doesn't cancel, that means that the vow the girl made is valid, and she's obligated to follow the words of the obligation she took upon herself. That's the first category. The second category is a little bit more complicated. It's a girl that is engaged to be married, but kiddushin of Chazal. In other words, she's considered to be a woman of a man, an eshet ish, through kiddushim. It's not a complete nisuin yet, because she didn't enter the house of her husband, and they didn't have intimate relations yet. But the kiddushim makes her asura. She cannot. No one is allowed to be with her, and she's not allowed to be with anyone else, because she is bestowed to that one person. And it's a kiddushim situation. She's still in her father's house before she moves into her husband's house, and therefore she's under the supervision of her father. We're talking about ancient world, patriarchal society, but she also belongs to her husband through kiddushim. At this situation, both her father and her husband / the mekadesh can cancel her vow, again if it happened within the day of making the vow, and if not, the vow is valid and she must fulfill the obligation she took upon herself. In both situations, the Torah adds a very interesting statement, and the Torah says if the husband or the father decides to cancel her vow, and they have the power to, since they have the power to do it, God will forgive her for not fulfilling her vow. And that brings us into a very interesting realm of relationship in terms of the vow and the woman. Let me add the other two categories, and then we go back to the fact that God will forgive her. The third category is very clear. It's a woman who is either a divorcee or a widow. She's a person as of for herself. No one can cancel her vows, and when she makes a vow, she's obligated to follow her obligation. The fourth category is of a woman that married and had kiddushin and nisuin. They went under the chuppah, they had intimate relations, and she is fully the man's wife, and he has the ability to cancel her vow if he heard her saying the vow, and it happens within the day that he heard. And again, if he didn't, so she's obligated to fulfill her neder. And also in that circumstances, it says that if he canceled her vow, God will forgive her. Maybe the pasuk that explain to us what's going on here between the relationship between the father and the husband and the girl, the woman, the married woman, has to do with the last pasuk in that chapter. And that pasuk is saying that these rules, these chukim of vows, are they're between av uvito, they're between the father and the daughter, and between the ish va'isha, between the wife and her husband. And from here, Rabbi Ishmael is learning in a baraita that because it says bein levein, between those two people, whether the father and the daughter, the wife and the husband, it has to do not with ownership. It doesn't have this privilege because he owns her, because she's his, and because there's a ba'alut. That's why he can cancel her vows. Rabbi Ishmael is saying, no, it's about relationship. There's something about a mutual relationship, a mutual understanding between the two couples, the father and the daughter, the husband and the wife. And on top of that, Professor Fleischman is suggesting that because he also understands the privilege of canceling the vow, not to do with some money issue, that she belongs to the father, that she owes him, that she needs his permission in order to make a vow, and it has to do with some contract between the two of them, whether it's a contract between a father and a daughter, and a contract between a husband and a wife. Fleischman is saying, no, it is about healthy relationship. And if the woman makes a vow, the daughter is making a vow that is somewhat hurting the relationship, then the Torah gives a privilege to the men in both cases to cancel the vow. But I believe that we should not only hear maybe the unease of the fact that the husband and the father can cancel the vow of the woman. We should hear the other side. In other words, the other side of this privilege is the fact that the Torah is acknowledging the right of the woman to have intimate relations with God. Because making a vow is creating a religious realm, a religious atmosphere between the woman and God. When we take a vow, it's using holy words to take upon ourselves a higher obligation or something we didn't do and we want to take upon ourselves. Fleischman suggests that maybe the husband and the father heard the women say things that are going to hurt the relationship, and they took their privilege to stop it. And maybe even more, says Fleischman, because in the religious aspect of life, women were not part of it, not in the Mikdash, not in everyday life. There were few areas that women had some holy obligations, like korban yoledet and other situations. But in the everyday life, not in the Beit Midrash, not in the Beit Mikdash, women were not part of it. the only thing they had of holiness and that can help them create close relationship at those times with God was the neder. So maybe, says Fleischman, maybe women used that in order to create nedarim that really were not so good for the relationship, for the relationship with the father, or relationship with the husband, and therefore there was an opening in a patriarchal society to stop them again. But still, I want us to hear the fact that the Torah understands that the girl, the woman, the wife, the daughter can and should create relationship with God and come closer to God through the neder, because she is a human being that was created in the image of God. And not only can she make a neder, when she makes a neder, it's a valid neder and she needs to fulfill it, unless within those one day that they can cancel it. And we just hope to wish that that in healthy relationship between a father and a daughter and a wife and a husband, if the woman is making a vow that is to bring her closer to God, to enhance her avodat Hashem, they're not going to cancel it. So the Torah, even though the Torah gives the option, it's very narrow opening to doing that. So the woman can make a vow, and it's a valid vow, and she doesn't even need the permission of her husband and her father to make the vow. And if they happen not to hear her vow, in other words, she can do it in a place where they wouldn't hear her. And if they didn't hear the vow, they cannot cancel it, because the Torah gives validation and understanding that there's a realm of religiosity, of holiness that belongs to everybody. So she doesn't need the permission of the husband, and she doesn't even need to have a religious figure there, a Kohen, for example, a rabbi, to tell her, yes, it's okay. No, it's her own decision. And then, with a small opening that they have, and hopefully they're not going to use it if it's something really for the benefit of the woman and the benefit of the father of the household, of the couple, with the woman looking up to God and wanting to become close to God. So when we end Masechet Nedarim that belongs to Masechet Nashim, we also need to hear that the Torah sees this place of neder as an opportunity that wasn't there for women in all realms of life, to create an intimate, religious, holy relationships with God. And you know what? Hopefully, maybe through that, a stronger bond with her and with her husband in the household that they create together. I wish us all Mazal Tov for finishing Masechet Nedarim, moving on to the next Masechet, Masechet Nazir.